Internal Revenue Service IRS Tax News. Taxpayers should renew expiring ITINs, ITINs, early to avoid a refund delay next year. IRS Tax Tip 2020-110, August 27, 2020. Individual taxpayer identification numbers, ITINs, there's a link to that here, are used by taxpayers who have tax filing or payment obligations under U.S. law but who are not eligible for a Social Security number. People with expiring individual taxpayer identification numbers should renew their number ASAP as soon as possible. This will help avoid unnecessary delays related to their tax refund next year. Which ITINs, ITINs, individual taxpayer identification numbers, will expire this year? These ITINs expire on December 31st, 2020. Numbers with the middle digits, 88. Those with middle digits 90, 91, 92, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, or 99 if assigned before 2013 and if not already renewed. The IRS will begin sending the CP48 Notice, there's a link to the CP48 Notice here, to affected taxpayers in late summer. This notice explains what actions a taxpayer will need to take to renew the ITIN if it will be used on a U.S. tax return filed in 2021. So obviously the deadline here is going to be relevant given the fact that if you need it to file the tax returns, then you need it to file the tax returns. So if you have income for the current year, you need the ITIN, you need to update the ITIN, then you want to update the ITIN so you can do the tax return as soon as possible. And once you do the tax return, hopefully get a refund and get that refund then sooner, hopefully. So if a taxpayer has an ITIN number that has already expired and expects to have a filing requirement in 2021, they can renew anytime. Taxpayer with an expiring ITINs have the option to renew them for their entire family at the same time if they have received a renewal letter from the IRS. So you can basically renew them all at the same time, hopefully, so that you don't have to do it kind of piecemeal as they come into play for the renewal process. Family members include the tax filer, spouse, and any dependents claimed on the tax return. How to renew the ITIN. To renew an ITIN, a taxpayer must complete a Form W-7. So there's a link to the Form W-7 here, and submit all required documentation. Taxpayers submitting a Form W-7 are not required to attach a federal tax return. However, they must still note a reason for needing an ITIN on the form. So in other words, typically the reason for needing the ITIN might be that there's employment, and then you would need to report the ITIN and give it to the employer for, and report it on your W-2 and then on the tax return. So you need the reason on why the ITIN is necessary. So then taxpayers should renew the Form W-7 instructions. There's a link to that here before completing the form. There are 3 ways to submit the Form W-7 application package. Taxpayers can mail the form along with original identification documents or copies certified by the agency that issued them to the IRS address listed on the address listed on the form instructions. There's a link to that here, PDF link to that here. Work with the certified acceptance agent. There's a link to certified acceptance agents here, authorized by the IRS. Call and make an appointment at the designated IRS Taxpayer Assistance Center, there's a link to that here, to have each applicant's identity authenticated in person instead of mailing original identification documents to the IRS. So that might be a way to go so that you don't have to mail the documentation, which could be a problem. You don't want to mail the original documents, or you may not want to or trust that process. So you may look into the certified acceptance agents to help you out, and there's a link to that, or the IRS Taxpayer Assistance Center for that as well, if those might be the way to go or things to try. So common errors to avoid when renewing an ITIN: mailing identification documentation without a Form W-7. So if you mail in the identification stuff without the actual Form W-7, then that'll confuse the IRS. Don't confuse the IRS, because then stuff takes a long time. It's a bureaucracy, So issue information on the Form W-7. So if you have missing information, again, the IRS is going to get confused, and then everything grinds to a halt. And then the insufficient supporting documentation, such as proof of U.S. residency or documents that support name changes. The IRS continues a nationwide education effort to share information with ITIN holders. To help, the IRS offers a variety of informational materials. There's a link to those informational materials here, available in up to 7 languages. So there's a link to those items here. There'll be a link to this in the description.